Alrighty, in today's video, we're going to be talking about 6.2, which is polynomial division and the division algorithm. All right, in this, big thing you need to understand is it gives you a formula for the division algorithm. But what you ultimately need to understand is that your answer for any polynomial is really going to be your quotient plus your remainder divided by whatever you're dividing by. So if I wanted to know what the polynomial function divided by some divisor, this is what the result will be. It will be the quotient plus whatever the remainder is divided by the divisor. And basically, this is just like when you had just regular numbers and you had remainders. I think a lot of y'all were taught to use R, but reality, it's plus a fraction. For instance, if I have 4/3, 3 divided by 4 is 1, with a remainder of 1 divided by the divisor. So this would be your quotient, 3 goes into 4 one time, plus the remainder divided by what you're dividing by. This is what you saw in grade school. This is what you're at now in college algebra. And we determined, again, if P of C is equal to 0, then C is a 0, and X minus C is a factor. So when I'm trying to divide and I want it to go into it evenly, what I can do is I can plug this in, and it will give me a remainder of 0 by dividing it. And you'll see some of that later. So it basically bounces to what we call the remainder theorem, in which P of X is simply going to be whatever the quotient was times that factor of X minus C. So if I wanted to, if I knew this was a 0, I could divide the polynomial by X minus C, and get my quotient plus whatever P of C actually is. So when I plug in the C, this will be kind of like your remainder part. That's what the remainder theorem is really about. I'll teach you how to do long division, and then I'll also teach you synthetic division. Synthetic division is a shortcut, but only works for certain types, and I'll point those out as we get to them. But for now, let's just jump right into doing a whole bunch of problems. That's because this is really just what I would call an algebra heavy lecture. So if you really enjoyed the math of algebra, that's pretty much what we'll be doing today. So we're going to be on page 398 today, and we're going to look at number 2. Number 2 is 5x squared plus 9x minus 6 divided by x plus 2. So personally, I'm actually going to show you synthetic division and then show you when you have to do a long division. I do have one of those. Your homework was pretty nice and only did one of those as well. On the test, I'm good either way. Even if the directions say use long division, you can use synthetic. All right, so this is how synthetic division works. This has more application than long division, in my opinion. All right, so x plus 2 is your factor. So your 0 would just be x plus 2 equals 0, which is x equals negative 2. So in reality, just change the sign of your C here, and you're going to put it in what I like to call the window. Now, from this, you're just going to write all of the coefficients of your terms. So the coefficient for the x squared is 5. The coefficient for x is 9, and your constant is negative 6. Once you have all of your numbers written down, you drop the first number, and then it's a two-step process. You'll multiply, write the result, add. Multiply, write the result, add. And you do that until you can't do that anymore. So this would be -2 times 5 is -10. 9 plus -10 is -1. -2 times -1 is 2. -6 plus 2 is -4. This last number is what we call the remainder. So when you write this answer out, you decrease by a degree. So instead of x squared, this goes to 5x. Instead of x, this becomes your constant. And then to do the remainder, so this is like your q of x, and then you'll say plus r of x, which is the remainder, so that's -4, divided by what you were dividing by, which is this x plus 2. And that's it. That's what you do. I just do a whole bunch more. Let's look at number 5. So we have 4x cubed minus 6x squared plus x minus 7 divided by x plus 2. So again, this is your factor. So I'm going to change the sign of your c. This happens to be the same number. So it's going to be -2 in the window. And then my coefficient of x cubed is 4. My coefficient of x squared is -6. My coefficient of x is going to be 1. There's like an imaginary 1 as a coefficient if there's no coefficient there. And then my constant is -7. Drop your first number and then multiply. So -2 times 4, -8. -6 plus -8, -14. -2 times -14, 28. 1 plus 28, 29. -2 times -29 is -58. -58 plus -7, -65. Go down a degree. So instead of x cubed, this is now 4x squared. Instead of x squared, this is now -14x. Instead of an x, this is now a constant 29. This is your remainder. Now, I write it as plus usually, but if you do end up with a negative result, you can say -65 divided by x plus 2. But a lot of times you'll see me just say plus every time, and then I'll just write the remainder there. Both of those are the same correct answer. All right. So hopefully you're good there. So let's do another one. Let's look at number 6. Number 6, or did I just do number 6? I did number 5. So number 6 says x cubed plus 2x squared minus 4x minus 8 divided by x minus 3. So again, I'm going to take this factor, or this number of -3. I'm going to make it a positive 3, because that's what the 0 of that factor would be. My coefficient of x cubed is 1. Again, there's like an imaginary 1 there. My coefficient of x squared is 2. My coefficient of x is -4. And my constant's -8. Drop the first number. So 3 times 1 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. -4 plus 15 is 11. 3 times 11 is 33. -8 plus 33, 25. So that would be a drop to degree. So this would be x squared. Notice I did not say 1x squared. We don't typically write the 1. I don't think I wrote the 1 over here. Oh, there was no 1 there. But you don't typically write the 1. And then this would be 5x. X turns into a constant, so plus 11 plus remainder divided by x minus 3. And there you go. Right? So let me show you a case where the synthetic division does not work. So let's look at number 13. 9x cubed plus 2x divided by 3x minus 5. In this situation, notice there's now a number in front of the x. For synthetic to work, it has to be in the form of x minus c, in a sense that there cannot be a number in front of the x. So I'm going to do long division here. So I have 3x minus 5. And then now I'm going to write this inside the box, but I have to fill in any missing terms. This is the same concept if this was like 9,020, right? You wouldn't just say 92. You would say 9020. So this is going to be the same concept here. So this is 9x cubed plus 0x squared, giving yourself a placeholder, plus 2x plus 0. Right? So again, you have to have a placeholder for every term. And then from here, it's like a 3-step process. You're going to divide the first terms. So step 1 is to divide. So 9x cubed divided by 3x is 3x squared. I take this result and I'm going to line it up with my squares. Step 2, you're going to multiply. You're going to take what you just got and multiply to both of these. So 3x squared times 3x is 9x cubed. 3x squared times negative 5 is negative 15x squared. Then we're going to subtract. When we subtract, we're basically changing the signs of all of our terms. So this will go away. This will be 15x squared. Drop the next term and repeat. So now I'm going to repeat the process. So this is now going to be 15x squared divided by 3x, and that gives me 5x. So I go positive 5x, multiply. So 5x times 3x is 15x squared. 5x times negative 5 is negative 25x. Subtract by changing the signs. This goes away. 2x plus 25x is 27x. Drop your first number down and repeat. 27x divided by 3x is just 9. This is plus 9. 9 times 3x is 27x. 9 times negative 5 is negative 45. Change the signs. So I get positive 45. This guy is still your remainder. So then your answer here would be 3x squared plus 5x plus 9 plus 45 divided by 3x minus 5. And so when you can't use synthetic division, this is your next process. And now this process always works. So if you want to play with this one, you're more than welcome to. Synthetic division works sometimes. All right, the next type of problems you'll see is like number 23, where it says use synthetic division to determine the given value for C to determine if the given value, for C is a 0 of the corresponding polynomial. So this is what you do. You take the C value given. So you're given P of X equals 12x to the 4th minus 7x cubed minus 32x squared minus 7x plus 6, given that C is equal to 1. Nope, that's a 2. All right, did I go astray? 12, 7, 32, negative 7, and 6. So what you do is using synthetic division, you're going to take this number and then put in all of your coefficients. So the coefficient of x4 is 12. The coefficient of x cubed is negative 7. The coefficient of x squared is negative 32. The coefficient of x is negative 7. And your constant is 6. You're going to drop the first number. 2 times 12 is 24. Negative 7 plus 24, what's that? 17. 2 times 17 is 34. Negative 34 plus 30. Negative 32 plus 34 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 7 times 4 is negative 3. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 6 plus 6 is, or 6 plus negative 6 is 0. If you get 0, that would mean this is a 0 of this polynomial. So the answer here is yes, if it's 0. If it's anything other than 0, the answer is no. And then it goes, then if not, determine what P of C is. Just so you're aware, P of 2 would equal 0. So yes or no, you can always calculate the P of C. It's whatever the remainder is. This is part of that remainder theorem. All right, let's do another one. Let's look at number 34. 34 is P of x equals 3x cubed minus 13x squared minus 28x minus 12. And then you get C equals -2. So you take the -2. X cubed's coefficient is 3. X squared is -13. X is -28. Constant's -12. So -2 times 3 is -6. -13 plus -6 is -19. -2 times -19 is 38. And then -28 plus -38 is 10. -10 times 10, -2 times 10 is -20. -12 plus -20 is -32. So this would be a no, and the answer would be P of -2 equals -32. All right, and that's it. All right, let's do one more. Let's look at number 35. 35 says P of x equals 3x cubed minus 13x squared minus 28x minus 12. C equals 6. So I'm going to take my 6. Again, notice I'm not changing the sign when it's in this form. When it's in the factor form, that's when I change the sign. So x cubed is 3. X squared is -13. X is -28. Constant's -12. 6 times 3 is 18. -13 plus 18 is 5. 6 times 5 is 30. -28 plus 30 is 2. 6 plus, times 2 is 12. -12 plus 12 is 0. So this would be a yes. And technically, P of 6 would equal 0. All right, so let's look at another one. Let's look at number 42. This is -2x to the 5th plus 4x to the 4th plus 3x to the 3rd minus 7x squared plus 3x minus 2, all divided by x minus 2. So again, in this situation, this is a factor, so I will change the sign. So 2 will go into the window. X to the 5th is -2. X to the 4th is 4. X cubed is 3. X squared is -7. X is 3. And my constant's -2. We drop the first number. 2 times -2 is -4. 4 plus -4 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 3 times 0 is 3. 2 times 3 is 6. -7 plus 6 is -1. 2 times -1 is -2. 3 plus -2 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. -2 plus 2 is 0. So it just wants the answer, not the fact that it is or is not a factor. So you would write this as -2x to the 4th, because you decrease by a degree. There is no x to cubed. So then this would be plus 3x squared, because you come down a degree, minus x. Notice I did not write the 1, plus 1. That's a constant, so I need to write that. And then there's no remainder. So there's your answer. All right, the last set of questions you'll see are like number 53. Where you actually have to construct what the polynomial function is. So you are aware that this is a second degree. The zeros are, so second degree. The zeros are equal to -4 and 3. And it goes to, so basically f of x goes to -infinity when x goes towards -infinity, okay? So best thing to do, turn these zeros into factors. So that would be x plus 4, x minus 3. Second degree, that would give me my degree. Now we just need to pay attention to our signs. If my function is going down, going down as x is going to -infinity, that can happen only one way since it's a second degree, and that would be if there's a negative in front of the function. Now, typically, I usually tell kids, I just leave it like this. However, your homework wants you to go further with it. So you'll do x times x, get x squared. X times -3 is -3x. And 4 times x is 4x. When you add those up, you just get x. And then 4 times -3 is -12. Now we're going to distribute that negative to all of it. So your polynomial function is -2x squared minus x plus 12. So instead of you looking for the information, now it gives you the information and you produce the equation. So let's do another one. Let's look at number 54. We now know it's a third degree. The zeros are -2, 1, and 3. Y-intercept is -12. I'll show you where this comes in. So this would be x plus 2, x minus 1, and x minus 3. These are the zeros, the factors. I changed the sign. There's my cubic as well. So let's work this out. So I'm going to work the first one first. So this is going to be x squared minus x, 2x. So 2x plus -x is just x minus 2. Now I'm going to work it out again. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times -3 is -3x squared. X times x is positive x squared. X times -3 is -3x. -2 times x is -2x. And -2 times -3 is positive 6. Combine like terms. So this is -3x squared plus x squared gives you -2x squared. -3x minus 2x is minus 5x plus 6. Here's where it gets interesting. Your y-intercept of -12, that is your constant. So my constant has to be a -12. So all you got to do is determine, how do I turn 6 into a -12? And that's if I multiplied by a -2. Issue with that is you just have to do it to everything. -2 times x cubed is -2x cubed. -2 times -2 is positive 4x squared. -2 times -5 is positive 10x. And then -2 times 6 is the -12 that I was after. So that's that little extra from that part right there. All right, let's look at some others. Let's look at number 56. 56, it's a third degree. And your zeros are 1 minus I, 2 plus I, and -1, and a leading coefficient of -2. So again, this is the same concept. So this would be x minus 1 minus I. This happens to be a little bit more going on there. X minus 2 plus I, and then x plus 1. Simply can just change that sign. I'm going to simplify this a little bit. So I'm going to say x minus 1 plus I, x minus 2 minus I. All I do is distribute that negative, and then I have x plus 1. I have my cube that I was looking for, so I'm just going to work it out. I'm going to go x times x, which is x squared. X times -2 is -2x. X times -I is -ix. -1 times x is -x. -1 times -2 is positive 2. -1 times -I is positive I. I times x is ix. I times -2 is -2i. And then I times -I is -I squared. So definitely let's clean this up. So -ix and ix will cancel. -I squared, remember I squared is equal to -1. So this is -1. So that makes that a +1. When I rewrite this, it's going to be x squared minus 2x. Oh, no, I lied. minus 3x plus 3. So that goes away. And then 2 plus 1 gives me 3. And then I look like I have I minus 2i is negative I times x plus 1. So then we do it again. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times 1 is x squared. Negative 3x times x is negative 3x squared. Negative 3x times 1 is negative 3x. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 1 is 3. Negative I times x is negative ix. And then negative I times 1 is negative I. All right, so now when working this out, this gives you x cubed. That would give me negative 2x squared. Those would cancel. And it looks like what I got is, I'm going to put I really don't know. I'm going to make this a minus ix. And then I'm going to say plus 3 and minus I. I'm trying to figure out the proper way. So this is cube squared x, and then 3 minus I is like its own little like term. But and I can't really combine those, but that's how you would write it. And then the leading term is negative 2. So all I'm going to do now is multiply that entire thing by negative 2. So that gives you negative 2x cubed, positive 4x squared, positive 2ix, minus 6 plus 2i. That's probably about as hard as those will get, but let's look at one more just to make sure you're fully prepared for what you're about to see on the homework. So let's look at number 60. 60 is a third degree. Zeros are 1, 2, and 3, and passes the point 4, 12. So we'll come to this later. So this is going to be x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3. All right, so let's prepare this. So it's going to be x times x, which is x squared, x times negative 2, which is negative 2x, negative 1 times x, which is negative x. So that gives me negative 3x. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. X squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 3 is negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x squared. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9x. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So this will give me x cubed minus 6x squared plus 11x minus 6. But I wanted to go through the point 4, 12. So what that tells me is for my x's to be 4, it needs to equal 12. All right, so let's do it this way, because this is currently when it's equal to 0. So I'm going to say that I plug in 4. Let's go with this. I got a better idea. All right, so let's say there's some number a that has to multiply all of this, so I get 12. Now, when I plug in 4, I might actually just get 12, so my a would be 1. Simple concept, all right? But I don't know. But let's just start there. So I want to have the a right there for now. I'm going to say 4 cubed minus 6 times 4 squared plus 11 times 4 minus 6. So this will give me 41664. 416.6 is 696. That'd be 16 times 6. That would be 16, 32, 64, 96. Yeah. Plus 44 minus 6. Um, so 64 to 96, that would give me 32 numbers off. So that'd be negative 32. So if this was, yeah, plus 44, that would be negative 12. Nope, positive 12, because that's a positive now. Positive 12 minus 6, and then I'd get 6. All right, so this is now A times 6 equals not 0, 12. So therefore, when I divide by 6, A has to equal 2. So when I come from this part right here, I need to do 2 times x cubed minus 6x squared plus 11x minus 6. And when I do that, this will end up being where I plug in 4 and get 12 as my outcome. So 2x cubed minus 12x squared plus 22x minus 12. And if you don't believe me, you can plug it in. So this would be 128 minus 252. Nope. Nope. Shoot. 192. 192 plus 88 minus 12 ends up equaling 12. Right, and then that's about as hard as it gets on the homework. So it can kind of get a little hard on the thinking process. But in that is all that I got for you on this one. So as always, keep emailing me with your questions. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.